Wonderful. Thank you everyone who's joining. This is the Meet the Faculty, the GEIS faculty, the iMBA session. We have Professor Fataneh Taghaboni-Dutta here with us. We're very excited to speak with her over the next hour or so. So please get your questions ready. You'll see on the screen, we have a QR code. You can go ahead and scan that. We'll also have this available later in the session to connect with our team, get some more information. We still have some people joining, so I'm going to give a few more seconds to let the attendance numbers even out. And then we'll do some introductions. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And we will get started here shortly.
Maybe meanwhile, you can ask them to turn their cameras on.
Sure, yeah, feel free. We would love to see your faces. If you feel comfortable, turn your cameras on. That would be wonderful. Looks like we've got about 20 people here. Great. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you again. My name is Amy Simpson. I'm a coordinator here at GEIS Online Programs. We also have my colleague Allison, who's going to help out in the Q&A. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, go ahead and throw your questions in the Q&A. You'll find that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And then our very special guest, we have Professor Fataneh Taghaboni-Dutta. Professor, if you don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself. Thank you so much for being here. And we're really excited to talk to you about your courses that fall in the iMBA program.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. And I'm glad to be here to share with you my experience here at GEIS with the iMBA. I have been a member of GEIS since 2009, and as my bio shows there, I graduated from Purdue in engineering, and I have been to more than one Big Ten school. I've been part of faculty at Ohio State as well as Michigan, and now I am at Illinois, and I couldn't be happier. It was the slide says my teaching style. I don't know how to describe my own teaching style. I like to have a class that challenges my students, but at the same time, I create an environment where students can experiment until they feel like they are learning what's the objective of the lessons or the classes. And I think by and large, students feel that that gets accomplished. And my background, obviously being in engineering, I have a lot of interest in technology. So over the years, my interests have been in Six Sigma, as well as impacts of technology on operations. And as of late, because of the amount of development that we had to do to have successful and effective online teaching, a lot of my research has focused on pedagogical design when it comes to online. I am one of the few faculty members in iMBA that teaches more than one class. I teach a class that is part of our analytics component. It's basically a data analytics class, but it's basically a statistics class that gives everybody in this program enough background in the statistical analysis so that they can use that in their finance classes, in their marketing classes, and various types of courses that they will be taking, and requires learning how to deal with data, using that data and making decisions. I also teach a class in project management. I am a professional project manager. I am a certification in both in Agile as well as Waterfall. And so I teach an 8-week course that introduces the students to the concepts of project management, both using Waterfall approach as well as Agile. So those are the two courses that I teach right now in iMBA. Now, for iMBA, the stat class is a required class, but the project management class is an elective class, but I pretty much see the same number of students in both classes. They typically take both classes that I teach. So it's really a great opportunity for me to know the students past the 8 weeks. I get to know a lot of you guys when you join for much longer period. So that's a nice thing that I have.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. We will definitely talk more about your courses and sort of your approach to teaching an online course, and certainly office hours and things like that. I know I certainly have had a lot of questions about the statistics and numbers classes. That's one of the things that people bring up in interviews. When we ask them, what do you think will be challenging about the iMBA program? We have a lot of people come through and say, oh, I haven't taken an accounting course or a stats course in a really long time. So they have a lot of questions about, office hours and accessibility and where do I get help? So we definitely will, we'll touch on that later on in the presentation for sure.
We'd love to talk about it.
Great. So just in general, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the benefits of Geese Business online programs. So flexibility, stackability, and online by design are things that sort of points that sort of are present throughout all of our online programs. So flexibility is something that kind of is woven throughout the curriculum, as well as just the time management of the programs. Our courses and our programs are stackable, meaning that you can kind of stack them in pieces, from small pieces into large pieces. You can use them to fill knowledge gaps that you may have. And they're online by design, meaning that we didn't just take in-person courses or programs and put them online. These are degree programs and courses that were intended to be online from the beginning. So they're designed to be online. So Professor, can you talk a little bit about the quality of the online MBA compared to in-person programs? Obviously, UIUC doesn't have an in-person MBA program at this time. So the iMBA is the only MBA program, but maybe just in terms of, other in-person business programs that you might be familiar with.
Well, the easiest thing to talk about is the fact that I used to teach the same course in our MBA program when it was on campus.
Sure.
And the quality of our program was never questioned at the time, because University of Illinois has a reputation that's world-class. When we decided to go online, and we were approached by administration saying that we would like to create an online program, for a while we had a parallel program. We had both on-campus program as well as the online program. And of course, today we just have online. I can tell you that I speak for all the faculty that I know, that the quality of our courses in terms of both their content and the level of rigor that is there is no different than when it was on campus. So I don't think the modality of our teaching and your learning has changed the content and the quality of instruction that you would get. Just like any other thing that you do in life, we have done our part. When you do your part, the product becomes really something great to have. So personally, I think the quality is at the same level, and it has proven to be so, because we do see our graduates. I have been part of this program since its inception in 2016, and I see how great our students are either getting hired or get promoted within their own organization. And these are ultimately the testament to what they think are the graduates of the program are bringing to the organization, that is either taking them for the first time or is holding them as part of their human capital as they go forward. Sure. So that's how I think. Yeah.
Great. And that's another really common question that we get from prospective students is, is it really worth it to take an online degree program, and how does it compare and things like that. So that's really great to hear from from a faculty member who has done both. And that's again where that online by design kind of really shines, is that that quality is still there in the content. Great. And then just some quick facts about the iMBA. The total cost comes in right around $23,000 US. That does include tuition and fees. It takes a minimum of 24 months to complete, or you can extend that to 36 months. 4 start dates in August, October, January, and March. So again, that flexibility comes in through there. We do have a pay-as-you-go structure. So you're paying for the courses that you're currently enrolled in, and you just sort of pay as you go. So if you, again, back to that flexibility, if you have, financially, if you need to cut back, and take one course at a time or take a break during a term, you have the freedom to do that. Or likewise, if you have a busy season at work, and you need to, ramp up during a term or cut back during a term, you have that sort of flexibility to sort of fit the program to your specific needs. And then just some numbers about the students within the iMBA program. The average age is 37, with 11 years of work experience on average. We do have all 50 states represented now. We just fairly recently got the last couple states in there, so we're very excited about that. 92 countries represented and 70 Fortune 100 companies represented. So we do have a very wide variety of resources and experience and backgrounds represented in the student body. And then as far as curriculum and content, the degree program is made up of 72 credit hours, so 48 core hours and 24 elective hours, as well as 3 capstone projects. And you can kind of see the breakdown there, core specializations on the left, and then focus area specializations on the right. Excuse me. So Professor, you talked about this a little bit, and it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that your stats course fits into the core curriculum.
Yes,
and then
your economics and business analytics is the
Okay.
second one that you see, the core specialization. My course fits into that.
Okay, perfect. And then your other course is more of an elective.
An elective, and I am not, so it's not in the focus area specialization. I don't think it's part of any of those. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, and then
I don't know all the nuts and bolts of how these specializations are put
Sure.
together.
That's okay. That's fine. And we do have an academic advising team who, help. That's sort of their job, is to make sure you're ticking all the boxes and, getting the your timeline planned out for all the courses you'd like to take, and make sure that, you're sort of on the track that you expect to be on for finishing the degree and things like that. One note about the focus area specializations, those 5 areas that are listed are sort of the pre-packaged specializations, that if you happen to be interested in one of those areas, those are the suggested courses that, like, let's say you're interested in digital marketing. There are courses sort of suggested that would put you on that route. You don't have to choose one of those specializations. So if you want to pick and choose and kind of make your own specialization, or if you want, a little bit of everything from everywhere, you can also do that. So you can sort of make up your own specialization as well. And again, that's sort of part of the flexibility of the course. So Professor, can you talk a little bit more about how your courses are structured, just in terms of the assignments, or what the breakdown is of group work versus individual assignments, or how you sort of approach the structure when you're laying out your courses?
So this is a little difficult to answer because my 2 courses approach it a little differently. So first of all, I want to say that the structure of the course is really designed to match the pedagogical focus of the course. So in my stat class, well, both classes are 8 weeks long. So what we have is that we will have every module. So there will be 1 module per week. So there are 8 modules, and every module will have a specific goal, objective, learning objective. And that's very clearly discussed in my videos. I tell the students, this is what you can expect in this module. And then there are several video lessons in each module. So every week you have many different video lessons. And then typically in my class, because if it's a stat class, you will have an assignment that you need to do, because you have to practice that. And that's also by and large true about the project management class. In the STAT class, they have two team assignments. One comes in the middle, one comes at the end. In the project management class, they have three team assignments. So again, depending on what the content of the class is about and what are the objectives of the course, it's a combination of students doing individual work as well as doing teamwork. And as always, we do have some assessment in form of a quiz or a test. And again, depending on the class, I will do it a little differently, but that is also part of it. At the end of the day, the reputation of the school and the program and the degree is dependent on when the outside independent people look into it. They see that we do ask our students to be challenged, but we are here to help them get through the challenges. And through that challenges, they learned a higher level thinking and gathered the skill sets that are so sought after by employers today, and why the students are coming to this program, because they also are looking for those skill sets. So the structure of the class is dictated more or less by what are the objectives in each module, in each week of the course, as we build it brick by brick toward the end. Does that make sense, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to sort of summarize it. And like you said, it makes sense that it would vary a lot, based on the content and which specific class it is. We do have a question in the Q&A about capstone projects. So could you talk a little bit about capstone projects, or do those apply to the courses that you teach?
Well, I don't teach the capstone, but let me talk about the managerial economics and business analysis. So that has 3 core courses in there. So I am one of the 3. And then there is a capstone for that course. So the capstone is shorter in length, and the capstone projects is a project. So it's not a class that you're going to take a test, but the project that is there, it's supposed to draw on what you have learned in those 3 classes. So think about it as integrating those 3 independent classes in something that you can see being applied to solve some business problem. By business, I mean in a most general form. It could be a problem that it would be in a government setting, or it would be in an NGO, or it could be in a for-profit business, anything. So there would be a setting. But the idea of a capstone is that the teams are gathering, the team of students who are working on a project are integrating the lessons that they have learned in the previous 3 lessons in that specific specialization. And we have had great faculty. I know in my core, we have a very great faculty who actually is an associate instructor for every class in that core. So by the time he gets to you all get to that specializations capstone, you have seen him over 3 classes, and it's just a very seamless and enjoyable experience for everyone.
Wonderful. Okay, and then we have another question in the chat. How large are groups on average? So do you find
in my classes, the sizes are between 4 to 6, typically.
Okay.
I know that they're not bigger than 6, and they're often not smaller than 4. So somewhere between 4 and 6.
Wonderful. Okay. Great. And then, excuse me, I did want to talk a little bit about sort of the 2 components of our degree program. So on one side, we have the Coursera component, which is sort of the, we kind of refer to this as the textbook a lot of times. So this is where you're going to find things like pre-recorded videos, your self-assessed quizzes, assignments, peer evaluations. This is sort of the asynchronous side. So these are things that you can do, again, back to that flexibility. You can do this at any time. If you register early for a course, some people like to do this all at once. And then as they go through the high engagement component, they kind of refer back to this. Some people like to do it a week at a time with the Illinois kind of high engagement component. It's really sort of up to you, whatever works with your schedule, however you kind of choose to go through the lessons. People kind of have their own preferences. The high engagement component is on the Illinois side, and this builds on that Coursera MOOC on the asynchronous side. So this is where you're going to find your live weekly lectures, the group projects, the more interactive side of things. So your case studies, more discussion, your office hours, things like that. So this is where I definitely wanted to touch on office hours, because we do get a lot of questions about, you know, if I have a question, how am I going to get in touch with my professors? How am I going to get help? That kind of thing. So Professor, could you talk a little bit about office hours, and then just a little bit about what a live class is like for people who maybe haven't had a chance to attend a mock class yet?
So let me start with office hours first. And again, based on the course, I may do it a little differently in terms of how long it would be. But in my stat class, because I know that it's not uncommon for many students to feel a little nervous about stat, either because they haven't had a good experience with it, or they haven't had it for a long time. Either way, it doesn't matter. The idea is that office hours is meant to be there for a one-on-one engagement with the students. So I will not show up in office hours to lecture. I show up to office hours and I say, okay, if you have a question, raise your hand and I will call on you. In our stat class, we have office hours every day of the week. So the classes typically start on a Wednesday. I don't know why, but we start on a Wednesday and we end on a Tuesday. So if there is an assignment, it's due on Tuesday before midnight, champagne time. And I have live sessions on Thursdays and Fridays. So I will talk about live sessions in a minute, but we will have office hours on Saturday, on Sunday, on Monday, and on Tuesday. So there will be office hours every day after the live sessions in case students want to now come to office hours and ask questions. So it's in total 6 hours of office hours. And oftentimes, my associate instructor and I stay longer if there are students who are still lingering and have questions. So that's really a great place for a one-on-one. If there is no agenda to it, other than the fact that you show up and you raise your hand and you ask questions. And what I have noticed over the years is that I may get 40 people who show up in my office hours, but only 15 of them have questions. I find that students choose to just come to office hours to listen to other students' questions and how I am answering it. So they treat it as their own enrichment extra lesson. So they're welcome to come. You don't have to have a question to come. And I find that this has remained consistent throughout. So office hours is a great place I actually love my office hours more than anything else, because it's fun to just teach someone what they want to know rather than, I think this is important for you guys to know. And some of you might say, not quite sure of that. But and I get to know my students. So they often talk about work. They say, I do this at work. Can you help me with? So they come to office hours at times because there's a problem they are trying to figure out at work, which something they have done in class reminds them that this can be applicable. So they come to office hours to pick my brain to see what can I do to help at work with this problem, which is a great way of learning. Live sessions are similar to what you're looking at right now. Every week, for every module, we have a live session. And we repeat it for me. I repeat it 3 times because I don't know which time zones they come from. As Amy said, we have all 50 states and how many countries? 90 something countries?
99, I believe.
99 countries. So what you would see is that I have stopped ever to say good evening or good morning because I have no idea where people are. So I always say hello, everyone. Because of the time differences, people can show up in any of the live sessions. So the way I run the live sessions is a little bit more interactive than just recording, obviously. But it's to give them a 30,000 view of what is the module about, so they can think about the big picture of why they're learning this lesson. And oftentimes for my classes, I refer to something that has just happened recently in the news, or something that I can bring from quote unquote real life to connect what they're trying to learn to what is actually happening. So live session is more of that nature, and the students again can raise their hand to ask questions as I'm talking, and there will be some engagement that way. It's not like office hours. In live session, I refuse to answer someone's question about homework assignment because everyone wants to learn, and I always tell them that's really important to you, but maybe not to everyone else. Office hours is for my undivided attention to every single person who raises their hand. It's more of a place for us to have a general discussion, and it's quite enriching. I think without it, the online program will be just like reading a book. There is no connection between you and the faculty or the classmates. I see that you guys are relatively very quiet on the chat. I have my chat. I have my chat open on the side. They are constantly talking to each other, which means I also can see the bubbles that goes on their head, and I get to talk about it. So I see Louis has asked how many students per class or module. Well, in the core class, depending on but like Amy said, we have 4 different times that the courses, the admission is being done. My courses are offered twice a year. So I may have a larger classes in fall versus a class that I would have in the spring term. My classes are quite large. I think they're over 500, but not everyone shows up at the live session at the same time. So your live sessions are a lot more intimate. And then office hours, as I said, there are 6 hours of it. People spread out. So you have both the intimacy that you're looking for while we are also doing this at scale. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's an important point, because you kind of get the best of both worlds in a way, because one of the reasons that obviously one of the great things about the iMBA program is the price point. And one of the ways that the price point stays low is, we can offer it to more people because it's an online program. And people, that's a common question we get too, is again, if it's so many people, how do you get that connection? But you do have, like you mentioned, people spread out, and you have people who, maybe they can't make it to one of the live lessons, or live lectures, excuse me. So they watch the recording after the fact, or they pick one of the different office hours opportunities, and things like that. So there's definitely you're not going to get everybody in the same spot all the time.
Time difference would be one of the reasons why you will not.
Sure. Wonderful.
I see a question from Arshad. He says, how many live sessions are available across different time zones? So again, we make sure that there are, because we have a lot of students who have quite a bit of time difference, right? Especially those in Asia. So we would have a morning session, and typically my international students who are from Asian countries tend to come to the morning session. When I say morning, I'm talking about morning of Champagne. But then we also have evening session, where maybe people from West Coast of the United States would rather come to that because it's not as late for them. So we will try to hit all the time zones. So if the students know ahead of time, these are the times I need to spend time. It's about 90 minutes that they're online at that time. But if you cannot make it, all the recordings are available the next day. So you can watch the recording. So it's not that if you don't come to a live session, you don't get to know what happened. So sometimes it's not because of the time zone, it's a job responsibility or a family responsibility that interferes with your attendance at the live session. And the recordings will be there for you to watch it. So.
Great. And then one more thing, just in terms of the structure of the courses, can you talk a little bit about assessment? People ask a lot of times, how are assessments done in terms of group projects, or just in general, how are students assessed in different types of courses?
So I think what I'm going to talk about obviously relates to my course, but I think by and large is true about more or less of everyone's. So for me, my assessments fall into individual homework assignments. And again, a lot of that, students can get help by coming to office hours, so they can literally get 100% if they want to get 100% in that set of assessment. Then there is team assignments. So the team assignments, again, is part of the assessment, but the team at the end also evaluates one another. So if you have a team member who never participated, but their name appears on the team assignment, at the end, when the assessment comes back and the team members have rated that person very low, they will get penalized on the scores of their team assignments. So we make sure that the team assignments are where you guys are really enjoying working with each other as a team, because the type of assignment you're giving requires discussion with others in order to really come up with some analysis. So there is individual assignment and then team assignment. The peer evaluation, however, you as a team is part of the assessment. And then you would have some quizzes or timed exams, whatever you want to think. But those are always open book, open notes, because we know it's online. It's not, can you memorize this and return some answers? So, so those are the basic components of assessment that goes together. And it's not that 80% of it is based on your exam. It's not tilted toward the exam over everything else. It's fairly evened out between the individual assignment, the team assignment, plus the peer evaluation, and the exam/quizzes that you will see.
Okay, great. So I want to just kind of go through a couple of slides quickly. These are again just about kind of representation in our programs. Again, we talked about sort of 99 countries represented. This is our alumni network. So more than 6,000 online students with 3,000 alumni now. And this is just a sampling of Fortune 500 companies represented in the iMBA program. Another question that we get a lot is about networking. So in terms of networking in a virtual environment or online environment, we do have quite a variety actually of opportunities here. So in terms of GEIS-led or staff or faculty-led opportunities, we have iConnects, which are sort of an in-person sort of meetup with a professional development aspect to it. So it might be, you know, we're in this city or this area, come grab dinner with us and we're going to have a speaker on this topic. We also do, we'll offer immersions, which are, could be in person, could be virtual, where you work with a company on some sort of case study or problem that they present. And then iConverge is an annual event that's held here on campus in Champaign, where we invite students and alumni to come and meet in person, which is really fun. And we have speakers and a lot of faculty attend. And it's a really great opportunity just to, you know, see campus, see where your degree is coming from, and, you know, have that aspect of, you know, professional development. Again, we have speakers and sessions on various topics and things like that. This iConverge this past fall was, I believe, the biggest event we've had, and there were just over 500 people in attendance. And it was neat to see people, you know, meet in person who have been in courses together and things like that. So that's a really great, great event. There are also a number of student-led opportunities. Our students and alumni are very enthusiastic about, you know, meeting up and sharing ideas and experiences with one another. So we have a social media platform called Workplace that is exclusively for GEIS students and alumni. So you can log on there and talk about, you know, questions or problems that might come up as you're going through the degree programs. People also get on there and post job opportunities, or, you know, if you have an interview with a certain company, and you want to bounce some ideas off of people, or ask for insight about different problems, that's a great place to do that. We also have student-led meetups where, again, if people are traveling, I'm going to be going through this city. Is anybody around? Would you like to grab coffee? Those kinds of situations. And then obviously group work as part of the degree programs is a great way to just meet people and sort of share experiences and things like that as well. These are some pictures from our recent immersion in Seattle. You can see we have really great turnouts, and the feedback on these is fantastic. We try to incorporate some kind of fun outings as well as the educational work part of that. This was iConverge. You can see we had really good turnout for that as well this past fall. Some feedback on workplace, student meetups, and these are all across the globe as well. We get pictures coming in, on workplace, on LinkedIn, from people meeting up together. As I mentioned before, the student and academic success team, these are the people that you would go to for planning out your degree kind of timeline. So the people that, if you have questions about specific courses or what courses tend to go together, or courses that you maybe want to try and not pair together, things like that. If you do have those times where you need to take more courses or fewer courses, this is sort of what, where you would go for that. All right. Then application requirements. This is just a kind of a breakdown of what you would need to apply for the iMBA program or any of our degree or graduate certificate programs. Your resume, we like to tell people to keep the resume short and relevant. So try to keep it to one to 2 pages. Academic history, we do require transcripts. If you're an international applicant or you have degrees from international institutions, we would require mark sheets as well. Personal statements, prompts for any essays or personal statements are included in the application itself. So you'll find those prompts right there. There's also a space for an optional essay. Excuse me. The optional essay is an opportunity for you to support your application. So if you have some kind of special circumstance, or you feel there's an area that you need to provide further explanation for your application, that's exactly what that optional essay is for. So some examples of that are if you have a lower than 3.0 GPA, that's sort of the minimum requirement for a graduate program. But if you have, if you feel that your work experience sort of offsets that, or if you have an extenuating circumstance that you'd like to sort of explain why you had a lower undergraduate GPA, that would be a perfect example where you would write an optional essay. If things like that. If you have some sort of gap in your resume that you'd like to explain, that's a great example of where to write an optional essay. We require 2 professional letters of recommendation. We always recommend that these come from people who can vouch for your performance. So somebody like a supervisor, if you're someone who is newly out of undergrad, it would be someone like a professor, someone who could sort of vouch for your performance in some way. Again, if you're in a special circumstance where maybe you own your own business and you don't have a supervisor per se, that would be a great example of an optional essay where you can kind of explain the situation a little bit better. International applicants for English proficiency requirements, TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo scores are required, or an English waiver essay. GRE or GMAT scores are optional, so don't let that keep you from applying. If you do have those scores and would like to submit them, great. That's just another data point we can use to evaluate your application. But if you have not taken those tests or you would like to not include those scores in your application, that's totally fine as well. And then lastly, a scholarship essay. If you're applying for spring, unfortunately, the scholarship deadline has passed. Summer and fall scholarship scholarship essays should be open. And again, those prompts are available in the application itself. So you'll find those available and you'll just upload your essay to the application portal. And then as far as the process, after submission, the application team will review, excuse me, and then admission decisions are made on a rolling basis. And there are some perks to applying early, which I'll go through on the next slide here. Typically, the evaluation period is 1 to 2 weeks after each step. So after you apply, you can expect 1 to 2 weeks for sort of a response. And then if you're asked to interview, you can expect 1 to 2 weeks for an application or an admissions decision after that point. So the fall applications, the early application deadline is May 4th. The kind of perks that go along with applying early is that you would have no application fee. You get early access to some things like the networking platforms like Workplace that we talked about before, early access to Coursera. So if you'd like to do that asynchronous sort of textbook part of the courses, you can do that early if you choose. You are eligible for scholarship consideration and you get priority registration by applying early. So be sure to take that into consideration. It's a great opportunity and you do have plenty of time to meet that May 4th deadline and get any questions in and things like that. So we do have some questions. We do have a couple minutes that I wanted to go through some questions that we have for the professor that we got from registration. So I'll go ahead and throw the QR code up. Again, this is, if you'd like to get in touch with us, this is a great way to do it. You can go ahead and scan that code. And we are here with Professor Fataneh Taghaboni-Dutta for a few more minutes. And just some questions that again came through the registration. Do you find that creative or artistic people perform well in the MBA programs and career using the MBA degree?
Honestly, the answer is yes. One of the nice things about MBA degree is that the classes can go from something that is a little bit more quantitative oriented to something that is a lot more humanistic. Okay, so people typically come from background that either gives them a strong backing for quantitative area or the other end. So no matter what, everyone would be somewhat advantaged in some classes and disadvantaged in some other classes. So as a whole, it evens out. MBA as a whole, not just our MBA program, MBA as a whole was designed for people who can come from any background to get a degree in business administration so they can then, again, generically run a business. A business does not have to be a for-profit business setting. It can be any operation that needs to have a well-run system of basically your everyday tasks that you have a goal for your business and you need to achieve it, what steps you need to have. So I don't think that there is a single background that makes you well suited for everything you will take. Your background, whatever it may be, will make you, some classes for you would be easier and some classes will be more challenging, but that's where you are also getting the most of the learning of the skills that you don't have and vice versa. Okay, does that answer questions? Absolutely.
Great. And that's why you're in the degree program, right? You're here to learn. And if you already know everything, why take the program? Perfect. Absolutely. So just last question before we wrap up here. What are any advice or tips and tricks that you would like to share for prospective students or people who are considering the iMBA program?
So one of the things that I would really recommend that you do is that you make sure that if you're planning to attend this program, that you plan for the fact that it will take some time away from other things that you have in your life. So I saw one person who said, can I finish it in 1 year? Theoretically, yes. But if you're working, and most of our students also have families, then dedicating 10 to 15 hours per class per week, you're not going to have time for sleep. So when you decide to take this class, you have to do that, become more disciplined in how you use your hours. Remember, this is a short journey, but you will have a lot of rewards at the other end. And also getting your loved ones to agree that this is going to be you for the next 2 years. And then just commit to it, and it will get easier as you go along. But you can't just say, if I'm working and I have family, I should be able to get an MBA degree by just working 1 or 2 hours a week on this class. That's not Illinois' MBA. And so if you want to have the reputation of the program, it requires your commitment. So come with your eyes open and then commit to it. And I think you will enjoy the experience. It's the most honest answer I can give all of you who are listening, which is when you make the commitment, commit with what is required for you to succeed.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And I sat in on the previous session, which was a professor from the IMSM program, and his advice was very similar. With, take it seriously, that it's a serious program. And I think that's a great way to frame it, that it is a time commitment. And as you said, we recommend, 10 to 15 hours per course per week. And that's why, the full time is considered, 1 to 2 courses at a time. Because once you add in full-time job and family and whatever else you have going on, it does add up. So kind of keep that in mind as you're planning.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Well, we are out of time, but I want to thank everyone for joining us. This has been a great opportunity, and thank you, Allison, for helping with the Q&A. If you do have other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our email is geesonline@illinois.edu. We would be happy to answer any additional questions that you have. And Professor Fataneh Taghaboni-Dutta, thank you so much for being here. It was great to speak with you, and it's great to have your insight on your courses and your teaching. And we hope that some of us will join the iMBA and see you soon.
Yes, true. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you all, and have a good rest of your day.